Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. I hope everyone's having a great end to the semester. I'm Joseph Whitcomb, and the topic that I'll be speaking on today is improving a garage at the house in which I'm staying here in Jacksonville. So to tackle this issue of improving the organization of a garage, I chose to utilize the tool of 5S, right? So what is 5S? Well, 5S is originally kind of a method of continuous improvement developed by the Japanese. So they had 5 words that started with the sound of an S, right? For these different steps, those being seri, seiton, seiso, seketsu, and shitsuke. So each of these words stood for a step in the process. When this process, I guess you could say, was adopted into manufacturing in English-speaking areas, they took those words and adapted them to English, right? So they became sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Kind of diving into each of these steps, sort means, in principle, to distinguish between what is needed and what is not needed. We have set in order, which can be simplified or defined in principle as a place for everything and everything in its place. Shine is to clean your workstation and keep it that way, keep it clean, right? Standardize means to create protocols to follow. And then sustain means stick to the rules, stick to the process, do 5S daily, right? It's not just something for one time or one moment, it's a continuous thing, hence the continuous improvement aspect. So I found in working with 5S that in this project especially, but in really any project with 5S, you're not so much completing tasks steps 1 through 5 and then you're done, right? You are more so tackling steps 1 through 5 and then repeating the steps again and again and again, so on and so forth, because it's a continual improvement, right? And so even if you're tackling one main step, you're actually performing 5S on multiple scales multiple times. So in this presentation, rather than depicting chronologically the events that I did and trying to explain each step where it coincides with the steps in 5S, I'm rather going to outline each step sequentially and explain what I did for that step. And then at the end, my chronological summary will give clarification for anything that wasn't done so in the main body. So for this first step, I really distinguished each object, or the objects that were there, into about 3 categories, right? You have what is trash and obviously doesn't belong. You have what is valuable but doesn't necessarily belong in that location. And then you have what does belong in that location. So it's about finding what does belong and setting it in a place where you can then organize it, but it's about getting rid of muda, or things that don't belong, right? And in this process, I was actually able to find things that I've been looking for, such as this piano stand, this keyboard stand, and so I was thankful for that. So this next step, it consists of taking what has been sorted and placing it where it needs to go, right? Set in order means placing things where they belong. This means to place the work tables against the wall next to the toolbox, right? It means to place shelving where it needs to go, or create shelving where necessary in the instance of the batteries and the charging station, right? Because this step isn't simply about organizing things in a neat and orderly way. Yes, that's an optimal aspect of it, an imperative aspect of it, but it means to place things in an efficient way, right? I want to be able to work and interact with them in a way that benefits me. Being neat and orderly benefits me, but that's not all that it takes, right? It takes knowing, how do I need to access these materials and equipment? What place do they need to go in for me to utilize them to their fullest capacity? So it's not simply, is this neat and efficient? And so we see this in the organization of materials along the walls, right? Accessibility as well as order. So this third step, shine, is one where I would say I really, going back to that idea of, in performing 5S, you find yourself doing it multiple times, not just one singular time. I think this main step was where I found myself doing that more, right? Because in this step, as you're cleaning things, right? And as I'm cleaning, as I'm going, that's a helpful aspect of it as well. But as you're cleaning the area, you find muda, for example, waste that you didn't before. And you're moving things around, right? As I'm moving things and I see this object isn't actually necessary, so I can get rid of it, and that creates space. Or I'm interacting with an area and I'm cleaning a piece of equipment and I realize that it's actually cumbersome in that area, right? So it's not as efficient as I had intended in the beginning, and that shows me through interacting with that equipment that it wasn't in an optimal space. And so that's when I find myself going back to the second step, setting things in order, positioning things differently than I had before, because I've found a better efficiency, right? And so there's a lot of wiping things down, cleaning things to make them more visible and appearing better, but there's also a lot of getting rid of muda, again, just in a different form. So the fourth step, standardize, I think personally might have been the one that I enjoyed the most. And the reason that I say that is because I think if you perform the first three steps correctly, you're doing the pre-planning for step four, right? You're essentially completing the difficult work for step four. As you're sorting things out, as you're putting it in place right? As you're cleaning and interacting with the materials and equipment, you're planning in your head where things should go. And so then when you get to that fourth step, it's just about displaying that, giving the visual cues to others for the planning that you've already done, saying, hey, I've determined that this should go here, and this is me informing you of that, right? So it's fun to just say, hey, I've already done most of the work for this, and now it's just about displaying it so that others can see the effects. So I found I had a lot of fun with this step, and the fact as well, I think you can have more fun with it, I would say. Like, perhaps I didn't need a label for the refrigerator, right? But it didn't hurt, and it's fun to just put labels on things. So I think if you can find enjoyment in the step, obviously you don't want muda, you don't want excess, but it's good to inform people of the location of things. So the fifth step, sustain. This is a step where you want to take the quality and the progress that you've made within this process and continue it, if not improve it. And so in order to ensure that this happens, there are multiple things that can be implemented. So there's the photos and videos, right, of the finished product. This allows you something to refer back to ensure, okay, am I maintaining the level of quality that I've established, or am I even improving upon it, right? And on top of that, there's an audit sheet or a checklist, right, that can be reviewed. And depending upon the usage of the garage, right, it would be either even more common or less common, but should be done about a week. You know, if you don't use it as often, you can move it back a little bit further. If you're using the garage more often, you can move it closer. But it allows you to go through each of the 5 steps and understand, am I maintaining the practices of 5S? Am I improving upon the practices? Am I allowing the process to create the improvement that I'm looking for and maintain and improve upon the quality that I'm looking for? So the different obstacles that I've faced were, the first one, having to consult with my landlord about where he would want the different materials to go, the different pieces of equipment to go. But I was able to solve that by just consulting with him throughout the process and ensuring that he was okay with each step. And then the other obstacle was at times having to work around the vehicles. They weren't mine, so I obviously don't want anything bad to happen to them, any damage to occur. But I was able to fix that by just ensuring that I was careful as I moved obstacles, moved different tables and such. So in summary, the work consisted of creating the ceiling storage, creating a secondary work table, moving those against the far wall, moving the tooling, adjusting all of that, implementing shelving, arranging the equipment underneath and the shelving on the wall for the batteries. And then it consisted of cleaning the 2 side walls, moving materials so that they would fit and work evenly. And then consisted of cleaning, shining equipment, followed by bringing the couch into the garage, and finally creating the audit sheet or the checklist. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, maybe even found some interesting ways to implement 5S. Thank you very much.